And start on whatever level you can, physical, mental. We hope that you'll, entertain starting on a spiritual journey as well, and combine all of those things, follow the wisdom, in material society, they say follow the money. We say follow the wisdom, and you'll feel better right away. Really, you will. You'll feel better inside.
Hey there, and welcome to the Breaking Trail podcast. This is where you learn to navigate life's journey through ancient wisdom. My name is Ruben, and today's talk is about lifestyle choices and making those small steps for great positive change in our life. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm very happy to have you here. And let's dive right into it. But that's, in India, it's like, it seems from what I know, and I went there, I've been there a couple of times, like the desserts are not so filling, but they're really, really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Like you don't eat so much, but the little thing you eat is like super sweet.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of like an espresso in food version,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What desserts do you like, Balakhilya?
What's that?
What desserts?
What do I like?
Yeah, what's your favorite dessert?
In Indian desserts,
You can do both. You can do Indian and any.
ice cream,
Ice cream.
mango ice cream.
Wow. Yeah.
That's number one.
Mango ice cream.
And you can add to that a lot of different things.
Do you find that anywhere?
At Bras in Toronto.
Oh, I see.
You went there, right?
Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
We have to tell the listeners and viewers about Bras in Toronto. That's good.
Yeah, that's my number one restaurant.
Huge vegetarian buffet, yeah? Or
Completely vegetarian. You don't even have to worry, does this have eggs? Does this have some chicken broth? No, nothing. It's all strictly vegetarian and amazing and huge variety. And you were there.
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
All buffet, all you can eat.
Bras in Toronto. We are not sponsored by anyone.
No, we're not. But I tell you, if you're going somewhere to really have the best restaurant, that's it, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's so nice, just that you don't have to worry. Like, I went to the northern parts of India once, and that's, you won't even find a restaurant where you can get meat. It's all the restaurants. I mean, you can't get meat. Everything is vegetarian. So that's like that feeling of not being able to, like, not having to worry. It's just really nice. You can just.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you another thing about Bras, and I've eaten there many times. You can eat a lot, and that's kind of like the norm because. It's all you can eat vegetarian. You go there once a year or whatever.
Yeah.
But the next day you feel fine. You don't feel like you just killed yourself.
Yeah.
Which is very unusual.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you eat whatever kind of food and that much volume and you feel bad at the end. You feel bad the next day. But at Bras, it's not like that for some reason. They got the spicing down perfect, so everything is enhanced in such a way that digestion is good. And
yeah. Well, that's a big thing that people don't think about, right? That spices are not just for taste, but they're actually really helping your digestion.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole thing in Indian cooking, and certain spices for certain dishes. Yeah. And, milk dishes, like something made with dairy, it's got cardamom and different things in it to make that dish, digest properly. And
yeah. No, my wife is really into Ayurveda, as you know, Lynn. So she's we're all on board of Ayurveda here. It's really
Yeah, Ayurveda is the number one health system.
yeah.
And the reason is because it comes from the Vedas. And it's handed down just like our, transcendental knowledge is handed down since time immemorable through a line of perfect masters. Ayurvedic science has been handed down for thousands of years as well.
Yeah.
And they have Ayurvedic scriptures written in original Sanskrit. And, it's like very different. They're not experimenting all the time trying to figure out what happens if you do this and that. And,
Right.
oh, we found a new way to cure this and a new way to do that. And Ayurveda, they're not experimenting with anything. They're just applying this science. And another interesting point in Ayurveda, there's one of the incarnations of God, Dhanvantari.
I just read about that.
And-
That's, yeah.
Yeah, and he's the god of medicine. I mean, he is the source of this Ayurvedic knowledge and protocol. And, if the Lord himself says this is how it should be done, who can argue with that?
Lynn was very happy because she's been taking an Ayurvedic course, and they're not really. We'll put it like this: there's a lot of impersonal teaching within the Ayurvedic field. So they didn't say that detail. But then Lynn asked me, and I searched the Srimad Bhagavatam for the name, and I found a lot of passages about.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and in authentic Ayurvedic medicine, like we know of a clinic in India, in Kerala, where it's authentic. I mean, the doctor there, he's been practicing for many, many years. His father was an Ayurvedic doctor. Yeah. His grandfather was an Ayurvedic doctor. It's a handed down tradition through the family. And before they do any procedures, they always offer whatever the treatment may be to Dhanvantari.
Oh.
Or they ask for his presence or his blessings, or
yeah.
They honor Dhanvantari and they make all the herbal compositions right there. They grow a lot of the herbs, or they buy them locally and grind them up, and then they make their own Chawan Prash and all the oils that they use for their massage. They make those oils right there. Would cook them, for hours and hours with the herbs that are applicable to the application of the oil and so on.
Great. That's something completely different from what we have now.
So when you get panchakarma there, it's the real deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. People talk about that a lot, panchakarma. That's famous.
Yeah. People talk about that a lot, panchakarma. Yeah,
But that's nowadays we have the Western medicine, and it's just like one pill for everything. And that's a little bit different for Ayurveda. I mean, it's not. It's not a mass-produced one pill.
They have a lot of. They have complete faith in their scriptures and how they apply them, and etc. Balancing the doshas and.
Yeah. We're going to speak a bit about diet today. I wanted us to speak about lifestyle, and as I wanted to also use you as really an inspiration for health and vitality. I mean, I think there are few people of your age at 77 that are up and running and healthy and happy. So just like I spoke to Slava, your technician over there, and he said, we're gonna reveal your secrets finally.
It's no secret, man. It's not like some secret pill that I have. It's just the way you live your life,
Yeah.
And one thing that is true, and you can see it in Ayurveda, but other places as well, You know, you can't just destroy your body to the end and then hope to bring it back in some very short period of time just by doing a couple of things you should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, you got to start early on in life. I mean, you build your health from the time you're born. And if you've lived a healthy lifestyle all the way through, then you just basically, you know, stay healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I remember in Australia, I used to go there a lot, and where I would stay, there was a neighbor, and he was in his 70s at that time, and he was so fit, and if you looked at him from the back, you'd think you were looking at a 25, 30-year-old guy. You know, he was always in his little, you know, Australian swimmers, they call them, little brief shorts, you know, and...
like he was...
And like I said, you look at him from the back and you think, oh, there's a 25, 30, 35-year-old guy. You know, but if you looked at him in his face, you could see, he had some years on him. And, you know, you'd see him out on the beach, and he'd be out there with a shovel digging a big hole in the beach. And I go, Jim, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm just getting exercise. He'd dig this big hole, and then he'd fill it back up. And anyway, we talked a bit about health, and he says, you know, you got to start young. He said, you can't wait till you're old to start doing this. My friends come to me that were in high school with me and so on and say, Jim, give us your secret to health. He said, man, it's too late for you. You know, they're 50, 60 years old, you know, been drinking a lot and doing all these things for eating the wrong food and everything for years. He said, it's too late for you, man. You can't turn it around like that.
So how old was Jim, this guy?
He was, like I say, probably early 70s, late 60s, something like that. You know, there was a point across the bay. I mean, it was a long ways away. And he would, you know, a few times a week just jump on a paddle board and paddle out to the point and come back, just staying healthy, you know.
Wow.
And he said, keeps me in good nick.
In good nick.
You know, nick is a good health, you know, good condition. Keeps me fit.
Yeah.
You know, that's Australian slang.
That's amazing. And it reminds me about something that an Ayurvedic specialist told me. I don't know, but he said that like the way that we see age is not really proper, because we see it as like the prime time and then it's just gradually degrading. But he said it doesn't have to be like that. He said that the Vedic word for age is like more that you're growing. It doesn't have to be just like a decline.
Right.
That was his.
So, you know, unhealthy lifestyle leads to unhealth.
But that requires...
So if you...
No, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, well, that requires determination. That's a huge part of it. You know, if you're going to have a healthy life, if you're going to like keep being consistent and making those good choices, that requires a lot of determination.
Well, you got to have a reason.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be a reason to do anything. Anybody that's determined has a reason to be determined. You know, whether it's making money or, you know, being, you know, on the podium at the Olympics or whatever it is, you know, the best singer or whatever. So you got to have a reason, you know. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to be raised in a family that had a healthy lifestyle. I mean, they weren't vegetarians. Nobody was vegetarian where I grew up. I mean, we didn't even know the word. It was like no such thing. But, you know, I was on a farm in rural North Carolina, and, you know, most of the vegetables came from our own garden. You know, we had our own cow with, you know, fresh milk every day. And, you know, there was a lot of exercise involved in our lifestyle. And my mother she didn't have any training at anything, but she just had intuition, you know, about this is good to eat and this is not good to eat. And so we never had a lot of candy and sweets. We had some cookies, but not much, you know. And, she'd pack me a lunch if we were going out somewhere on a school outing or with guys or whatever. And they'd pull out their meat sandwiches, and I'd have peanut butter and raisin sandwich on whole wheat bread.
peanut butter and okay, so what I'm used to is hearing like peanut butter and jam, but peanut butter and raisin, that's new.
Yeah.
Never.
So it was just, fortunate for me that was the case. But I always knew if you're healthy, you feel good, you can do all the things you want to do. And if you don't feel healthy and sickly, if you feel sickly, then, life is way less fun. You just can't. And I was all in about having fun,
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do, whether it was running or hiking or hunting or whatever it was.
But then people could say the same. But eating candy is fun, but you have to be able to somehow put off the short-term satisfaction for the long-term satisfaction.
Well, yeah, and how much fun is candy? Really, and it's over so quickly, and you just feel crap.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. I just had an awareness of this, and some people didn't. And I also understood that excess anything was not good, So, again, moderation was just kind of something I understood.
And that's the root of the yoga lifestyle as well, that you're living is moderation.
Yes, it is. So, then I in 1969, I became a vegetarian, because it was part of the yoga system, and I was becoming more and more interested in yoga. And at that time, there were a lot of people in the group I associated with. It was kind of like the beginning of the hippie movement, and a lot of hippies were vegetarian,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And back to nature kind of idea, and of course, I was living right by the ocean in Hawaii and surfing every day. And, again, it just kind of was part of the story. It kind of was just what you do. Why not do it? If you could obviously experience you're making progress here. Not only physical progress, but you're making, conscious progress. You're becoming more in tune.
Yeah.
Not only with your body, but with nature and with everything that's important. And I just, again, kind of understood that.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I went through different diets, first just, not eating meat. Like we talked the other day, I was working in a steakhouse. We talked about that already. I quit that, But I remember I was in the military at the time, in the reserves, and so I had a 6-year obligation. And when it was over, I had to have a physical to get discharged. I had to have a discharge physical. So I go to Honolulu to this big, military hospital, and spent, 5-6 hours there going through all these different tests of everything.
Yeah.
And you just go from one doctor to another. This one would test your eyes. This one would test, your reactions to certain things. This would test your blood and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, and you got a report from each doctor. And at the end, you took all these reports and went back to this main guy and just handed him the results of the test. Yeah. And so he would review everything, and then give you his analysis. So, he's looking at all these reports, and he looked at me and he said, do you jog? I said, no, I don't jog. I never liked jogging.
Oh, you never?
I never did. I said, no, I don't jog. I said, I surf a lot.
Ah.
He said, oh. I said, why? And he said, because you're in perfect health.
Wow.
I said, oh, that's good. I said, oh, yeah. And by the way, I'm a vegetarian. And he just had a shock. He said, what? you're a vegetarian? I said, yeah, for the last 2 years. He goes, oh, he said, you've got to eat liver at least 3 times a week. No. And you need to eat chicken 3 or 4 times a week.
But
and you need to eat steak at least once a week.
But
I say, wait a minute.
He just said you're healthy.
Told me, you just told me I'm in perfect health. Why I need to eat this? And he couldn't answer my question. Finally, he said, "Okay," stamped my paper and said, "Get out of here."
Oh shoot. Yeah, but 2 years is one thing, but wait 10 years if you haven't had your livers, and after 10 years.
Yeah, no, he didn't even go there, man. He just wanted to get rid of me. I was like, I was in the way.
Oh my God! Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about that. For example, like only vegetarians have lack of B12, or only vegans have lack of B12. Well, that's not the case. There's a lot of meat eaters, and I think I don't know the statistics, but I don't know any statistics saying that there are more B12 deficiency among vegetarians or vegans. I haven't seen such research. So.
And B12 is not even in the meat, really. It's a bacteria that grows, and it grows on meat, but it grows other places too. Yeah. It's not like meat is just packed with B12.
No.
It's the bacteria.
It grows in soil.
And I always tell people, if you're worried about this, then just take a B12 supplement. What's the problem?
Yeah.
And there's so many available now. B complex if you want. And it's so simple. Yep. And now your worries are over. You can be a vegetarian and not have to think you're going to die.
But I know there's a lot of misconception there. But so perseverance. But what's the what's the most important thing? Let's put it like that. In because you're saying, well, you gotta keep it for a long time. So we talked about the vegetarian diet. Is that what's the one thing?
Is that what now? What's the question?
What's the one thing that's the most important to follow in this lifestyle of being healthy?
Oh, I don't think you could say just one thing. Again, that's the Western style. Well, if I'm only going to do one thing, what should I do? Vegetarian diet would be high on the list. But, you can have a vegetarian diet and eat junk food. And junk food vegetarians are very sick. I know them. I've seen many. Oh, I'm a vegetarian. But what do you eat? And they eat just crap, but there's no meat, And so even if you eat very correctly, and you're getting proper nutrition, if you don't have any exercise, you're still not going to be healthy.
Yeah.
The body's a machine. And like any machine, it has requirements for it to operate at its optimum level, So the body is a machine. Food is very, very important, But if you eat the right food with no exercise, then again, you're missing a part of the program, the necessity, the requirement for health. You got to exercise, and not just exercise once in a while, once a week I do something. No, every day. Every day you need to do some exercise. And people say, well, that means I got to go to the gym every day. I never been to the gym. I mean, I have, but that was never for me. I didn't like the gym. I didn't like that artificial environment.
Me neither.
Weights and machines and sweaty people and,
I try to show
everybody
off.
Everybody looking at everybody else.
Yeah.
I never was attracted to that at all. It was just not fun to me. But outside activities, was always attractive to me. And nature is an ingredient in the health formula that you can never get inside a gym. Nature is not inside the gym. Nature is out in nature. Again, there's a design to this whole system we live in called the material world. Yeah. And that includes a material body and the things that are necessary for it to be in optimum health. Nature is one of the ingredients, that fuels that, not only physically but mentally. There's so much anxiety and stress and mental health issues now. And we live in all these artificial environments.
Exactly.
And therefore we cannot be healthy as a result. Nature is soothing and calming, and finally, the doctors or the health experts are beginning to recognize the importance of that. And again, not only physical but mental. The stress level for people today is higher than it's probably ever been, ever.
Yeah.
And we've created that. That's a product of our ingenuity. And it destroys us. One of the main causes of disease. I remember one health expert said 86% of all disease is caused from stress.
I've read something similar. It's crazy. It's
and we've just buried ourselves in a stress-filled environment from day to day, from year to year, and it just destroys us.
And it's going worse and worse.
Nature's like that balm, it's like that soothing salve that just calms everything down, and you get so energized and so inspired, but a different kind of energy, And, people drink all this Red Bull and Monster and all these energy drinks. Some people just have to have it to get through the day. It used to be coffee, and it still is, and to a huge degree.
Yeah.
But, the next level is Red Bull.
Yeah.
And guys drink 4, 5, 6 a day. And, it's just poison. Poisons your liver, poisons your kidneys, poisons.
And it's caffeine as well. It's again making the stress even worse.
Yeah, it's just amped up caffeine.
Yeah, I heard that it's like a form of amphetamine, like similar to amphetamine or something. Like it's similar to speed.
Yeah.
It gives the same like.
Right. Yeah. So the point is, we need to get natural energy from nature, from the food, natural foods we eat. So like I say, not just vegetarian food, but also, organic food, and, all the chemicals that mankind has created to make things go bigger and better. When I was young, that's when the whole chemical revolution came in. In the 50s. And, the farmers, I was raised on a farm, and the farmers were, starting to be indoctrinated to, use chemicals. Things grow better with chemicals. There were big billboards, I mean, seriously, on the side by Dow Chemical Company, which was one of the major producers of all this agricultural, fertilizer and everything. And things grow better with chemicals. And farmers just started buying into it and doing it, and like my father, just used cow manure, chicken manure,
Yeah.
That's what it had always been before. What's wrong with that now? And gradually things, became more and more polluted, more and more toxic. People started getting more and more cancer. Many farmers died of cancer because of their exposure to all these chemicals. Blood disorders and, all kinds of
infertility, I've heard.
Direct results of this advanced way to grow food.
But that's again like it just, the short-term thinking on an individual level, that feels like that's just a consequence of the short-term thinking, but in a bigger level. We want more now. We want more produced now. But what about 5 years? So what's the land going to be like, and how is the earth and soil? What it was going to be like?
Right. And then along came the GMO.
Yeah.
Wonderful invention. Like, now we can genetically modify it, so you can spray it completely with Roundup, which will kill you. But it won't kill the plant. It'll kill the weeds, but it won't kill the soybeans. Exactly. And so anyway, that's lust and greed and just self-centered, money consciousness.
The whole Monsanto story. I mean, that's another. That's a whole documentary on that. So.
The world according to Monsanto. But anyway, we can go on about the things that shouldn't be done. But to live a healthy lifestyle, you got to know this and avoid it as much as possible. I mean, come on, you can't avoid all pollution. You can't avoid all stress. Impossible. You can't do it. But you've got to do the best you can with what you've got. And the healthy diet, the exercise, being in nature, and so on, counteracts a lot of this, negative influence on our health. Mm-hmm. And again, people don't connect the physical health and the diet that produces that with mental
health. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a direct correlation between our physical health and our mental health. So all this, junk food that we eat not only affects the physical body, but the mental body as well. A lot of these mental issues are simply from diet, And people have developed allergies to everything now. The body's just reacting to what, we're exposing it to. So now you're allergic to, I'm allergic to gluten. I can't eat gluten. I'm allergic to this and that and another thing, And pretty soon, you're just allergic to everything. And then you get chemically sensitive. And you can't even live around people.
Yeah.
You just have to hide away in a porcelain house or, live deep in the forest in a tent or something. Or you just can't live, seriously. I had a friend who he became chemically sensitive because he was making kids' toys, furniture, and so on. And he was vegetarian, but he was just using all these, shellacs and varnishes and paints and all the things that was part of the production of his toys.
Of kids' toys,
Yeah, yeah. And he became chemically sensitive as a result, And so he just basically, obviously, had to quit that. And then he started trying to figure out, well, what could he exist in? What kind of an environment?
Yeah.
And so he started buying this one brand of trailer called Airstream trailers. They're made out of stainless steel. And he would buy old Airstream trailers and completely gut them and then put in all the inside the sinks and the stoves and the cabinets and everything, but all according to chemically sensitive people's demands. And each chemically sensitive person has a different set of things that they're sensitive to. So he would have a customer who was sensitive to this and this and this and this. So he would build one of these trailers so that wouldn't be there. And then they could live in that trailer. That was their refuge. That was like where they could find some relief. And I went with him one time to deliver one of these trailers. He lived in Vermont, and he was delivering it to Maine, to a customer in Maine. And so we delivered the trailer there and pulled into this little logging road into the middle of the forest. And this woman, about late 30s, came out of the forest, and she was the one that was getting the trailer. And she was so bad that she'd been living in a tent in the forest by herself for 2 years, winter and summer, and in Maine it's really cold in winter.
What?
Because she couldn't, and it had to be a special tent. It couldn't be just a normal, go buy a tent.
No.
Because she couldn't survive anywhere else, But anyway, I guess the point is that's what we're creating, more and more and more and more, in the name of progress and getting ahead and, being on the computer hours and hours a day. And,
and see,
so we have to make some choices. I guess it goes back. Go ahead.
No, it's even hard to avoid. Like you can do the best that you can, but it's to some extent like it feels like
the more than you know, the more you can do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And you have to act on something, because when we speak about things like this, it feels like for people, maybe like there's so many things that you should know about and they should avoid, and you could just get completely sucked into this and like try to, you know what I mean? It feels like...
Well, God has made the human body very, very resilient. It's amazing what the body can withstand, So if you support that built-in resilience with the diet, we were back to diet, right? The organic food, learn the Ayurvedic system of health, like what are your doshas, like what is your constitution? Are you Vata Pitta, Pitta Kapha, Kapha Vata, whatever. And then eat according to that, stay within that parameter of requirements for the body to be in its optimum health. Keep those doshas balanced. Drink a lot of the best water you can get. Not to excess, though. Some people, and I was on a diet for 4 years that took that part of the formula to excess,
What,
and
like
so
drinking lots of water.
Yeah, 3-4 liters a day, and it was having negative effects. You can overdo anything.
Wow.
So.
But then
anyway, so an Ayurvedic doctor told me, how much water you drink? I told him, he said, you don't need to drink that much water. he said,
and also warm water.
Yeah, but I wasn't necessarily drinking warm water.
No,
it should be.
It
should be. Should be warm water, but not hot, because that puts stress on the body too. Then you got to cool it down, or you got to use energy to cool it, or you got to use energy to warm it up. So, warm water and
moderation,
and different constitutions require more water than others. Dry constitutions require more. Kapha, wet constitutions require less, and there's a science here, but the whole world just buried in science anyway. But science for the wrong reason. The scientists say this and that, and so we got this disease. What's the science to cure it? Well, why not study the science of not getting the disease? And then you don't have to have the science to cure it. My mom told me unlimited times, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Or, in the metric system, a gram of prevention is worth a kilo of cure.
And I remember your father, you told me, he said, like, if you don't start anything, you don't have to quit it.
Yeah, that was another thing, which we didn't get to yet. But we will. But so diet and exercise, walking is an amazing exercise. And, the scientists have shown that walking is one of the best exercises. It's not extreme. You're not overdoing anything. You don't have need any special facilities to do it. And you can walk fast. You can walk slow. Jogging is great, but it's, very hard on the back and on the knees. And, women have, trouble with their female organs from the constant pounding. And, it's, if you look at how, mankind was designed, running was to get away from some danger.
Like an emergency.
Fight or flight. So you prefer to flight. You look at animals, they're not out just running all the time. Unless it's the dog that you just let out, and then he runs like crazy for a while and comes and lays down and, takes a nap.
Or the cows when you let them out in the summer.
Yeah.
But it's, again, not natural.
So anyway, walking is very good. Cardio is good. If you want to get more cardio, just step up the pace. Do some fast walks up some steeper inclines or whatever, but you can breathe. And also, now exercise has become a thing where you got to have a heart rate monitor and a timer and, a Fitbit on your wrist, so you compare to how you did yesterday or what your competition has done or what you can post on the internet to show your progress or Strava so people can see, how fast you rode this bike loop and so it's all become competitive, either with ourselves or with other people, which is again another level of stress. It's not a relaxed thing where you just go out and, just get the exercise and, look at the tulips, so to speak, look at the sunrise, look at the sunset and, breathe in that fresh air as much as you can. If the air's not fresh, it is what it is, And another little idea is time of day that you do things. There's different energies at different times of the day. And
like
that's part of, the Vedic teaching.
Like exercising.
Exercising, meditating, spiritual practice, working, productivity, sleeping. Everything is on a timer. Nature is on a timer. The birds go to sleep at a certain time. They wake up at a certain time. They feed at a certain time. I mean, look at deer, for instance. When do they feed? Early morning and late in the evening. What do they do during the day? They basically rest. You don't see many deer during the day. You see them early morning and late in the evening. Or, late at night, sometime on the road. In other words, animals have a schedule according to time, the rhythms of nature. Yeah. And the owl is another rhythm, you see. It's awake at night and it sleeps during the day. That's its clock. That's its system. And they follow that. But again, humans throw everything out the window and do what we want to do according to our desires. What is fun for my senses, Yeah. So, I just read a thing that came just 3 or 4 days ago. And it said that night owls, meaning people that stay up late at night, in the workplace are way less productive than the early birds, the people that get up early. But to get up early, you go to bed early.
Yeah.
And that's the rhythm. That's the system. There's 24 hours in a day. And these 3 modes of nature, which we talk about frequently, goodness, passion, and ignorance, each one of those modes is more dominant at a certain period of the day.
Right.
So, mode of goodness is most dominant in the very early morning hours, from 4 o'clock to around 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Yeah. That's mode of goodness. And you can feel it if you're up that early. You can feel that everything is quiet and peaceful, and there's a very, very special energy. It's called prana, at that time of the day. So that's the best time for meditation, for spiritual practice of various types, for reading scripture, making offerings to the Lord, and so on. That's what it is, and that's why people in places of spiritual practice like ashrams and monasteries and so on, they get up early.
True. And people see that as a great austerity.
They don't get up early, as that austerity. They get it up early because they get the most benefit for their practice at that time. And it's stated in the Vedic scriptures that you will get more benefit from your spiritual practice at that time than any other time in the 24 hours, even if you do exactly the same thing.
Wow.
At another time.
But
there's more spiritual benefit.
And that's a time that most people would never, when you say 4, that sounds completely unrealistic, I think, for most people to get up and,
Come on, that's the middle of the night.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, a lot of people are like that, yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, so that's what you do. You get up early and you take advantage of that. So if you're out for a walk at that time, then you're getting that energy, that prana, and so on. I was in Hong Kong, 1972, studying under a Tai Chi master.
Oh.
And he would tell me, okay, and he couldn't speak English, just one or two words. I mean, really, this was one of the old, real guys, And he taught he didn't have a big dojo or something. He taught in his apartment, which was up about 7 flights of stairs, about this wide. You almost had to turn sideways to go up the steps, And he had one room, and in there lived he, his wife, his 2 kids, and the grandmother, So when we would do our, practice, he would move, the whole family, other than himself, would go to the far end, and we would be at the other end, But he knew how to say no, 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 because when I did something wrong, he would very easily say no, 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 no. But anyway, he said, go to the park, at 5 o'clock in the morning and practice Tai Chi, He said, the air is the best then. The energy is the best, So I, of course, would go there. And the park was full of people, full. You could hardly find a place to do your Tai Chi because, it was full of people doing their Tai Chi and Qigong and various, Chinese exercises for longevity. That's their whole deal. The Chinese aren't spiritual people. They're people who want to live a long time.
Yeah.
And if you want to impress a Chinese man or woman, he said, how old you think I am? And you say, maybe you think, oh, he's probably 70. But you say, oh, probably 50. Oh, you made his day. I mean, he's like, yeah, man. Dada, thank you. I am 70. Then he tells you.
Exactly. And then he feels 70. Like you're really proud of
like, yeah. And true, many of those 70-year-old people look much younger than they are.
But is it still like that these days? Or has that sort of been lost?
Well, I can't really say because I haven't been there. That was in 72.
Yeah.
I'd say it's not exactly like it is. Hong Kong is full of protests now.
Yeah.
Or was. It's not right this moment. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the point is that time of day was the time to do those energizing exercises. Okay, then after that, 7, let's just be very lenient, 7:30, whatever. But you can feel it. Things start happening. Things start waking up. Things start moving. Things start buzzing. The traffic increases. Telephones start ringing.
Yeah.
It's time to go to work. Stress starts creeping in. Mm-hmm. And so here you go, hustle, bustle. Now this is the mode of passion. And the mode of passion is pushing that. It actually facilitates this. Now, in that period of time, you do what you need to do. You do your work. You do your this, that, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Your active period of the day. Then around sunset, and again, if you're in nature, you can feel these rhythms. Around sunset, the sun starts going down, things quieten down, the birds start seeking their roost, quiet, peaceful. This is again mode of goodness, and again it's the time for contemplation, sitting, watching the sunset, and doing your meditation and, quiet times. And this goes till about 9 o'clock. So in our system, our routine is in the evenings. That's when we also do our chanting and our meditation, study the scriptures and so on. Mm-hmm. And I remember I lived on the North Shore of Hawaii. 19, like I say, late 60s, early 70s, late 60s, went on Oahu. And the whole community at sunset, the sun set into the ocean, would come out and just sit in front of their houses. The beach is right there, the ocean's right there. And people are just sitting there, some with their eyes closed, some doing some meditation, some just standing, looking at the sunset, but nobody's talking.
Wow.
Everybody's just peaceful and quiet, you know. Then the sun goes down after another 15, 20 minutes, then people kind of go back in the house or whatever, you know.
Wow.
It was that contemplation time, you know. So like I say, this goes to about 9 or 10 o'clock. Then the mode of ignorance comes in. The mode of ignorance is characterized by sleep. The mode of ignorance helps you sleep.
Yeah.
This is how you use the mode of ignorance.
And it's meant to be like that.
So,
That's
that's Krishna's arrangement. So you go to sleep early. 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock should be the cutoff time, you know. And then if you get up at 4, you've got 6 hours sleep. If you go to bed at 9, you got 7 hours sleep, you know. You're refreshed. You slept when you're supposed to. You get up when you're supposed to. You're energized. It's not like you're groggy and hungover from, you know, going to bed too late and doing things you shouldn't even be doing anyway, you know. And now you're in rhythm. You're in sync. And here's an interesting point that verifies this from science, you know. During the day we're active, right? And a lot of damage is done in the body, you know, to the muscles and to the different parts of the body, the organs and so on, which produces free radicals.
Yeah.
And free radicals are not good. You see, they cause all kinds of trouble. They try to steal electrons and, you know, they cause, you know, decay, the damage in the cells and so on. But no worries, because nature's arrangement, which is ultimately God's arrangement, has arranged a beautiful system. During the period of between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, 10 at night and 2 in the morning, there's a gland at the base of the brain called the pineal gland, and it secretes a hormone which is the strongest antioxidant known. And this hormone neutralizes the free radicals. The body repairs itself. It's night rebuild time.
Yeah.
And then you're okay again. Now you're ready for the next day. See, self-repairing machine, how wonderful that is. But it only occurs between 10 and 2, and you have to be asleep for it to work.
Huh. Yeah.
So if you're staying up till midnight watching the Late Late Show, you know, or doing whatever you're doing on your computer or whatever, your body doesn't repair itself. And so that damage builds up, and pretty soon you got cancer, you know.
Wow.
And there was a study done that women who work the night shift, and that's usually between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., they're nurses or whatever,
Yeah.
they have, I think it was 20 or 30% more chance of getting breast cancer than the other ones who don't work at that time. You know, it's all connected. There's a system, and if we harmonize with the system, we will be healthy. Don't forget who the creator of the body is and the system is, and that's God. We've thrown this understanding and acceptance out of the formula of life, created our own formula due to our desires, and now we're sick. We're sick physically, we're sick mentally, we're destroying the planet. You know, people are just destroying each other, because when you're not feeling good, you're not feeling good toward other people either.
No, for sure.
You know, you're sharp, you're prone to criticize, you're angry, you know, and we're not satisfied. And so lust is not being gratified, which it can never be. So, you know, anger is riding, you know, on our shoulders all the time.
Everything's...
And anger destroys you from the inside.
It's completely out of balance with how it should be. I mean...
Yeah. You know, it says in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, that when one is angry, it pollutes his whole system and the environment around that system. So, I mean, you're around a person that's angry, it's a strange vibe, right?
Yeah.
You know, it affects you as well. So, there you go.
And that
you got
affects your body. Yeah. I mean, that mental thing goes both ways. Body affects mind affects body.
Yeah, right. It's all connected. So out of anger comes all the other things, right? What are all the competitions and, broken friendships and, the evil things people do and the road rage and, on and on it goes, which ultimately leads to the wars and, the hate and everything. All stems from this. People are so agitated, so angry that, we just create. People talk about hell. We've already created that in spades, and we're just getting better and better at it all the time. Yeah.
But could you, so this routine, I mean, and this is, again, I'm not gonna, yeah, I've spoken to my dad about this, for example, and he's a bit like, he says, well, for me, it's better to go to bed late. So that's just one, that's always what I hear all the time. But, and another thing is, if you could just share like what your day looks like, and I think people could be inspired by that. Like, how are you?
They might be inspired from a distance. I don't think too many people want to get really involved in it. But anyway, I don't usually talk about these things, but since we're on this subject and I've already, talked about the benefits. So, for me, this is me. Not I'm just saying anybody else has to do this, but for me. And I've worked this out over, many, 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 many years, I get up at 3:30 in the morning. I take a shower, and then I begin my meditation, japa meditation with japa beads. That's one of the meditations we do. If we haven't taught that on this program, we can do that someday to show people how to do it. But anyway, so I do that, and I have a certain number on the beads. We go around, and when we chant on each bead, the Maha Mantra, one full mantra on each bead, there's 108 beads. Then this is called one round. So I have, been given a certain number of rounds by my spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, when I was initiated. 16 rounds a day. Okay, so every day I do that. So I do half of those inside, in the house. Quiet. I'm listening to my spiritual master chant, japa meditation, a recording of that while I'm doing mine. And then I, take a probiotic and prebiotic and probiotic supplement, because that's a good time to do that. So I do that, and then I go for a walk. And I walk for about 2 hours, and during that 2 hours, I do my chanting on my beads while I'm walking, and, I do a series of exercises, while I'm out there, yoga exercises, incorporating some energizing exercises and Tai Chi and kind of a little system I put together, And also during that first period of time, I do a little hatha yoga too, to just stretch.
Out in nature, like outside?
Oh, no. Well, sometimes mostly in the house. Yeah. I have a certain series of asanas I do in the house, on the floor and the mat and so on. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then I do that. That's about a 2-hour session. Mm-hmm. And out there I take a few, I take a little more supplementation. I have some bee pollen. I drink some water with sulfur in it, MSM. Yep. And, I pay my respects to, the rising sun and the moon and, of course, the Lord and et cetera, et cetera. And, I breathe and try to take in that prana and that whole time and just feel that quiet period. And I never see anybody out there, never. I mean, the area I'm in now, a car, once in a while, I got a short distance on the road before I go into the forest. And, once in a while a car will pass, but very, very seldom.
Yeah.
One, maybe two. So anyway, I'll come back. Okay, now I've done my meditation. I've done my exercises. I've taken some supplementation. Then I take some more supplements. Don't even ask me about that.
I know that.
Got more supplements
list is long.
than yeah. And then I read scripture. I read a session of scripture. So this is before I see anybody. I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't, communicated with anybody about anything except the Lord. And then, then we have our morning program, we call it, where we make our offering to the Lord. We chant our mantra. That's when we come together, and do it's called Mangal Artik, where we make our offering and, food and chanting and etc. Then after that, we listen to a lecture from our spiritual master, And then that takes us up to around 9 o'clock, So from 3:30 to 9 o'clock, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
And then we have breakfast, And then after that, I got to do my other busy kind of work. I check my emails, respond to my emails, and et cetera, et cetera. And then, we have another online program at 11:30 for about an hour. 11:30, it's about an hour and a half. Again, we're chanting and reading from Bhagavad Gita. There's about 500, 600 people involved in this online program. And then, I go outside when it's a good day, get a little sun. If I feel a little tired, I might take a nap. And then depending on the day, 3:30 or 4, we have dinner. And then here I am with you. And after you, then we'll have another online program for chanting for another hour and a half till 8 o'clock. And then we'll read from scripture till about 8:30 and then go up and have some tea and, go to bed.
Wow.
And that works for me, And then once a week, we try to take a significant hike, to get a little more involved in the mountains and, a little extended exercise, and, have some kirtan in the mountains and some nice camaraderie. And, it's working.
And one of the things...
and I know everybody can't do that. That's obvious.
Yeah. But it's it's a step-by-step thing again. We just come back into that. That's... And
Yeah. But if you can get up a little earlier, and maybe get up 15 minutes earlier than you are now and do one round of japa, or do Garanga breathing meditation and, think about who you are. I'm spirit soul. I'm not this material body. Contemplate on some truth. We contemplate on everything but the real eternal truth. We're always focusing on the temporary. My job, my family, my, desires I'm trying to fulfill, the money or whatever.
Yeah.
The temporary, we're not focusing on the eternal. And this leaves a big void in our life. So... we can spend 15 minutes if everybody can arrange 15 minutes, instead of checking your social media, see who, liked what you posted or see what somebody else posted and you decide if you like it or not.
And that's, that's the first thing most people do in the morning. I mean, that's...
Yeah, grab that stupid phone and a cup of coffee and just, get lost in the world. That video we showed one time, Lost in the World?
Yeah.
Nice video, man.
I should maybe add that to the end or something so that people can take part of it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I've really noticed for me personally a difference in my personal relationship to my wife, Lynn. in that I set off this time for my spiritual practice in the mornings. Well, I have like me time, but you say it's, in a sense, it's me time, but in a sense, it's me and the Supreme Person. That's such a nice time. Like you say, even if you can get up 15 minutes before everyone else, your kids and everything. And if you, I mean, my way of thinking of it is just like, you don't really waste that time, because if you do your yoga and your meditation, you're going to have more energy through your day anyway, and you're going to be able to sleep a little bit less, so that you can actually take off this 15 minutes, and that's going to be like a bonus time for your...
Absolutely. Yeah, people that sleep a lot more than that is because they're not in rhythm, their body's not really, functioning as it's supposed to. So to compensate for that, you got to have more sleep. And you still feel groggy or not very good, kind of, brain fog and just not good,
It's true. And it can surely be too much. But it's a lot about the quality as well.
Absolutely.
Quality of sleep.
Quality of life is something that, people talk about, but very few people have a very high quality life. They got a very full life of, just like food. They got a life full of junk. We got a, belly full of junk. Where's the quality here? There's no quality. So,
and it's a lot. That's again the central thing of Ayurveda, to have like the optimal health, so that you can do what you want to do. Like, you have the purpose that you want to achieve in life, and then you can really fully do that, instead of just like living forever and not really knowing, not having a clear purpose of what you're going to do with that time anyway.
Yeah. That's another point. That's a good point. Like, okay, good health, but for what? What are you going to do with this good health? And so if you're following the yoga system, you learn early on that human life is meant for spiritual realization, And as you progress in the understanding of this subject, you understand that service to God is the ultimate purpose of the human form of life. So if you're healthy, you're full of energy, you can serve God joyfully. You've got a lot of energy to do some very good things. And your mind is clear. You can come up with very nice ideas of how to be creative in serving God. What can I do today? Bing. And you've got the energy to do it. Maybe you kind of know what you want to do, but if you got no energy to implement it, then you can't do it, or you're frustrated, or you try to do it and it's too much. Anyway, so good health is necessary no matter what you want to do.
Yeah.
And when you're healthy, you look better as well. And most people are so concerned with what they look like.
So if nothing
you want
else...
to look better? Be healthy. Forget all the creams and the makeup and the fake stuff, that you put on top of the don't look good face so you can look good. Just be healthy and clean, and you've got a radiance, a vibrance. It radiates through your eyes as well as, the pores of your skin. And, people are attracted to that.
So if nothing else motivates you, then...
That's what it takes. That's a step in the right direction. And gradually we can go beyond that. You got to start somewhere. We can't start with perfection. We can talk about perfection. But unless a person's very, very far along in his spiritual journey to perfection, he can't start way up the ladder.
No.
He's got to start where he is, So you add this piece, this bit, that bit, and pretty soon you're inspired to go to a higher level. And not only physically, but mentally, and not only mentally, but consciously and spiritually and awareness, and one builds on the other.
And that's a beautiful thing, that it's, one builds on another, and you just let go of things. Like, it's not a big struggle. Like, we've talked about vegetarian food, but that's just one example. It's just like you choose the good habits, you choose the things that you know are good for you and good for others. And in your and you're coming closer to the Supreme Person. And then the rest is like, it's not so important anymore. It's just...
Yeah. It's like your priorities change.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're attracted to changes. And what makes you feel good inside changes.
Mm.
And maybe what used to make you thought feel good makes you feel bad now. You know, it's like, ooh.
Not anymore. Yeah.
I don't want to do that stuff, you know. It's not good. So you become wise. You know, we talk about wisdom, you know. This is wisdom. And it's real wisdom, you know.
Knowing what you do and doing it for that purpose, or doing it for the right purpose, or...
Yeah. And even if somehow you're not at a point where you're fully doing it yet, you have the wisdom to know that's where I'm headed. That's what I want to do. That's where the goal is, you know. So, you know, sometimes practice doesn't catch up with the wisdom for a while sometimes.
Practice doesn't...
catch up with the wisdom.
Aha. Yeah.
For a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, back to diet. That's kind of how we started this thing, right? You know, you accept this is a good diet. This is how, but you're not quite able to implement it yet. But you keep moving toward it, you know. So the wisdom is guiding you. So the wisdom of the Vedas, you know, the wisdom of yoga, the wisdom of the spiritual masters is the perfect wisdom, you know, and we have to allow ourselves to be guided by that, you know. So even if I'm not wise, if I'm guided by someone who is wise, then I become wise.
So you don't need to...
That's wisdom in itself. Knowing I don't know, but they know, you take me where I need to go.
So you don't need to climb the ladder and try to be someone that you're not. You can only get inspired by the people that you understand are wise.
Yeah. You know? So, no, it's a journey. Life is a journey. It really is. And, you know, knowing what we know, it's an eternal journey because we're eternal. It's not going to end when the body ends. You know, the journey's not over. This is just one blip on the radar. I mean, this is like nothing, you know. So we're going to be on the journey regardless. So why not make it the best journey we can make it? And that comes with the wisdom that we've been referring to.
Right.
The guidance, you know, the help.
And if you don't...
Knowing I don't know, but I want to know. And this person knows, and I can learn from them.
You have a map of where to go. I always use that example, you know, as a hiker as you are. It's like, you got to know where you are. Otherwise, you're just going to walk in circles. You've told the story many times. You know,
yeah, walking in circles, not fun. Yeah, that's true. So anyway, that's kind of the idea. Simple life. You know, there's the saying in the Vedas, simple living, high thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's supposed to be. Simple life. Do we need all these extra things? Do we need all this, you know, success materially? Do we need all these things that we don't have or not? You know, do I need all this complicated stuff in my life? And that can also translate to relationships, you know. You know, you can make relationships very simple, or you can make them very complicated. You know, and the more complicated it is, the more difficult it becomes. You know, we complicate our life, you know, almost like intentionally. If we have a simple life, we're not feeling good about that, you know. My life is too simple. I want it complicated.
Why do we do that? Because I know. I can see myself in that as description as well. But why?
Because that's the illusion, because complication means more things, more gadgets, more relationships, more success, more blah, 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 which is all part of the illusion, you see, that this will make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
But it has the exact opposite effect, and if, there's an old lady, you may have heard of her, that's been living in I actually don't know if she's still in her body, but a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, she's been living in the taiga, which is the forest of Russia. Siberia is normally associated with the taiga. For 70 plus years alone. You heard about her?
If so, I think you have told me about her, but I can't remember the details now.
Anyway, it's a long story and we don't want to take up a lot of time with it, but, due to circumstances, she was born in the taiga. And, she had there was 4 children, I think. Mother and father, they were escaping from religious persecution when 1939, when communism was persecuting, these people. They were old believers. So the father just escaped into the taiga and built a simple house, and they learned how to survive, with nothing, from the land, And anyway, one by one, the father, the mother, the children died, and she was left alone. And she's been there for like 70 plus years, and every day she has her routine. She gets up early, she reads her Bible, she has her little, spiritual altar and her offering and, so on. And then you can imagine most of the day is spent arranging her survival. She's got to store up for winter and on the story goes. But she was thriving. This is the point. She wasn't like some mental case. She was thriving. And she was discovered by some geologists who were doing some work in the area. And so anyway, then she became known, and different groups have gone in to see her kind of thing and interview her and make videos of her and whatever. But she has a simple lifestyle, and she didn't want to come out. She went into the nearest town, a couple of times because she learned that she had some relatives there. She went twice, I think, and she said she'd never go again. Both times she got sick because she's got no immune system for all the diseases that might be present where people are. She's been isolated from all that.
Wow.
And she said it was just too busy, cars and traffic and blah, blah, blah. So she's very happy in the taiga, And
Wow.
she's got what? She's got her and her dog. I think she's got a cat, And so there you go.
Simple life.
Yeah.
Wow.
So simple living is a good thing. It's the Vedic system. It's the Vedic way, If your quota that's given to you by your karma and so on is, so you have a lot, then you have a lot. If your quota is that you have very little, you have very little, and you're okay with that. It says, accept that which is set aside as your quota, and do not accept more, knowing well to whom everything belongs. So the Lord gives a certain individual a lot, He gives another individual very little, and each one can use whatever they've been allotted, of course, for their maintenance, but also in their service to God, and
Wow.
each one is just as pleasing as the other. The person that has 0 almost is just as pleasing in his devotion as the person who has the greatest wealth. And so that's wisdom. See, this is what we're talking about. There's the Sri Upanishad, one of our Vedic scriptures, and there's 18 verses, and they're sometimes referred to as 18 pearls of Vedic wisdom. These are like gems. They're like pearls, and That's one of them, just your quota, information. And so you try to imbibe that wisdom, and use your intelligence to resist all the things that try to take us away from that.
And keep that purpose in mind, and so that
people will say, well, if people live like you do, what would society be? There'd be no prosperity. Vedic civilizations, we have lots of information about ancient Vedic civilizations, and they were prosperous beyond anything we can dream of. There were saintly priests, Brahmins. They were the heads of the society. They guided the administrators, which were the Kshatriyas, the politicians, the warriors, the caretakers of society, but they were guided by the wisdom of the Brahmins, and they took care of the citizens, and that included all the animals and plants, all living entities, not just humans, as if they were their children, and so then there was the worker, not the worker class, but the provider class. They were known as the Vaishyas, the bankers, the merchants, the farmers, that provided the necessities for society. And then there were the Sudras, or the worker class, those who provided, necessary labor to support the activities of the other classes. And everybody had their positions according to their natural proclivities. Some were, naturally workers. Some were naturally, Brahmins. Some were naturally leaders or providers. And, it wasn't like it was by birth and you were relegated to that forever. It was like according to your tendencies.
Right.
And it was all in connection with serving God, and the prosperity was unlimited. All the demigods, the providers of the water and the air and, everything that we need to survive were pleased. They just, Mother Earth was producing profusely and, because the Lord was pleased, and everybody was so, full in their lives, see. So it was perfect. That was the system known as Vanashram. See, so we can't think if we don't do what we're doing now, everything will fall apart. Everything's falling apart now because we're doing what we're doing now.
It is, for sure. It's becoming more and more clear in these times. If you didn't see it before, then at least it's getting clear now.
Yeah. So
wow. Yeah.
That's, how it is. But of course, yes, I've been very fortunate to have good health. That's my karma. I've tried to, do what I could do, on my end to support that.
Yeah.
And it's been good. It's worked well for me. But I understand very clearly at any moment, the whole thing can fall down, in a second. It's not like I'm, thinking, I got it wired. Karma is what it is. The Lord's will is what it is. And, when it's over, it's over.
And that brings me just kind of back to some kind of conclusion I guess we should make, like that start now. Like now is the time to start. You never know how long you're going to live. You never know what's going to happen, but you do know that now you have the opportunity to start that change.
That's right, yeah. And start on whatever level you can, physical, mental. We hope that you'll, entertain starting on a spiritual journey as well, and combine all of those things, follow the wisdom, in material society, they say follow the money. We say follow the wisdom, and you'll feel better right away. Really, you will. You'll feel better inside. Physically, according to your physical condition, it may not get immediately better, or you may have such a severe situation where you're not going to get better physically. There's a point where all the diets and exercise and everything else is just it doesn't work because it's past that point. But you're still you. You're still the person who can have that, spiritual, health and enlivenment and, calmness and peace. And, the journey is, this is just one part of the journey. And the body's temporary, whether you live to be 150 or whatever, it's still temporary,
Yeah.
So like I say, I know that any given moment, and that moment will come. When it is, I'm not sure. I don't know at all. But when it comes, it comes. And I don't care how much carrot juice you drink, you're not going to prevent that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do we have time for a little chant? I guess you're a technician on your end.
Yeah, we do actually. Yeah,
So
we can always make time for that.
That's one of the main activities we do in our personal practice, the kirtan. Along with the individual techniques,
Yes.
but we're gonna.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like here at our Chintamani studio, we do kirtan every day. Every day. We do online. So others can take part as well. So the mantra will be Gauranga Haribo.
Gauranga Hari.
All you do is just listen to what I chant and then you repeat. Gauranga Hare Bol. Haribol. So
Haribol.
that's Sankirtan.
Thanks. Great fun. Very nice.
Yeah. You know, life is meant to be joyous, really. And if it's not, then something's wrong.
You gotta get some wisdom.
But if you're trying to have a joyous life from material sources, then it won't be joyous. So, the soul by nature is a joyous person.
Thank you.
And when you connect with that source of joy, then the Supreme Lord, through, real yoga, union, linking with the Supreme Lord, then it's automatic. So it's all the mercy of the Lord. Like my health, my opportunities I've had, it's all, as it's stated, divine grace. It's not anything I did. I just was given a lot of, wonderful things.
And you're using those, and that's wonderful. And we appreciate that.
Trying to do something. So Ruben, it's been great as always,
Always.
One of these days we'll get up there to the north.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to that, and it's gonna be really amazing to have you here someday, Balakhilya. We were planning that right before the COVID, but
yeah, Ruben and I had big plans.
yeah.
Before COVID, a lot of very wonderful activities out in nature and filming and, But, things change. That's the material world, constant flux.
And now we do this instead, We probably wouldn't have done a podcast if we had not, if this hadn't happened.
That's right. If things hadn't happened as they did, we wouldn't be doing this. So, So again, thank you very much. Anyone who may be watching this, we thank you very much for doing so. Your interest is very valuable to us.
Or listening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So if you got any comments, I'm sure, Ruben and I would be happy to hear those.
Questions, thoughts, yeah.
Yeah, comments, questions, thoughts. And if we accumulate, a good list of questions, we can have a question and answer session.
Yeah, love to have that. So, thank you so much,
Okay,
everyone.
I got to run.
Yeah, thank you, Balakhilya.
Get on to the next part.
Next part of your, in a sense, it's a relaxed program. I just know that you're just enjoying. I mean, it seems like your days it's not like so much pressure, but you're putting in enough free time there to just like, okay, take it easy, and it's important.
Yeah. If you enjoy what you're doing, it's a pleasure. All right. Namaste. Namaste to everyone. We thank Slava for his technical expertise and our Chintamani team and our dear beloved spiritual masters for giving us the guidance, wisdom, and opportunities. Namaste.
So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I really hope that you felt and that you feel as inspired as I did. And please share with your friends if you did. Also, give us your thoughts and comments so that we can bring them up in the next episode, perhaps answer some of your concerns and questions. And hope to see you next week again. Remember to stay true to yourself and dare to break trail.